And those of you who've read through all the reports will realise why I'm saying it won't take too long. Welcome to those in the public gallery. Of course, there's Councillor Yole and Councillor Hunt, together with a member of the public. And for your benefit, if no one else is, please note that there are no fire drills intended at this time of day, and so if the fire alarm does go off, then follow the people running out of the building. Well, no, not running, because we're not allowed to run, but making your way orderly out of the building via the fire exits. This, for everybody, this is a meeting which is being webcast by Chris over there. So it will be available both on the internet, both now and in days to come, for you to watch if you wish. And for that reason, we do not think that it's necessary for anybody to separately record this particular meeting. Please be aware that at any time you could be on camera or you could be overheard, so be careful what you say or do. I haven't been asked to consider any of these issues in Welsh, so therefore the meeting will be conducted in English, which is a relief to many of us who have no ability to speak Welsh. But if, just so you know, for future reference, if need be, we could arrange a translator to be in attendance if you were so inclined. As I said, it is a fairly long agenda, but many of the items are, I would hesitate to say simple, but they hopefully will be relatively routine. On my left is Richard Lewis, who's Head of Development Management in the Planning Department, Planning and Public Protection Department. On his left is Paul Wheeldon, who's Head of Transportation and Highways, or something like that. On my right, Rachel Beale, who is Clerk to the Committee. On her right is Tim James, who's the Assistant Chief Legal Officer, who will be giving us legal advice as may be necessary. And we start off with apologies. Do we have any apologies for absence, please? And
yes, Chair. Councillor Ron Burnett.
Councillor Ron Burnett. Any others? Otherwise, I think we're a fairly full house. Good. Next one is declarations of interest. Tim, could you give advice, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Usual advice to members that where they do have declarations, can they please ensure that those are recorded in the relevant part of the register, which is going around covering your attendance here as well. Although there are a large number of applications, members, as far as I can see, there are only two matters on the agenda where there are declarations to be made, or at least my advice is that there are declarations to be made. Number 21, planning application relating to Llantarnam Community Primary School, starts at page 109. Councillors Powell and Councillor Ashley, I think both of you would wish to declare a personal but non-prejudicial interest in relation to that application, because Cwmbran Community Council are noted as having been consulted on the application. Would that be correct, please? Yes. So thank you both. You'll see there are a number of other matters relating to Cwmbran, but as far as I could see, the Community Council wasn't consulted on any of those. And then 22 on the agenda, planning application relating to vacant land off Pennywine Lane in Pontypool. I think in relation to this one, Councillors Parish, Taylor and Tomlinson, you would all wish to declare a personal non-prejudicial interest because the Pontypool Community Council are indicated to have been consulted on the application. Is that correct, all of you, please?
That is correct.
Thank you, I'm obliged. And again, there are some other matters in Pontypool, but again, as far as I can see, the Community Council is not consulted on those matters, so my advice would be there's no personal interest to be declared on any of the other matters. Any other questions from members on anything else? Or? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, good. I should declare that I am a governor of Llantarnam Community Primary School, but I think that is personal and non-prejudicial interest. I hope. Good, good. Right. Yes, yes. So don't forget to write down those interests on the attendance sheet. Okay. Next item then is 3, the minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of November. Go through them for accuracy, please. Page, I think it's 5, but I wouldn't swear to that. It depends what you're looking on. Is it page 17? Am I looking at the wrong minutes? It is page 5. Good. Page 5. Then page 6. Page 7. Page 8. 9. And 10. All happy with those as a true record?
Moves to record, Chair.
Fine. Who said that? Oh, Nigel. Thank you. Been moved? All happy? Yes. Thank you. Okay, to the next one then, which is the minutes of the meeting held on the 22nd of November. Page 17. 18. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 and 26. You're happy that they are a true record?
Move to record.
Splendid. Good. All those in favour, please show. Jolly good. Thanks. In respect of both sets of minutes, are there any matters rising either from officers or members? No, good. Let's move on then. As fast as we can scroll. The next item then is item 5, I think, which is the application for certificate of lawful development at Ed Logan Villa, Avondale Road, Sebastopol. Richard.
Thank you, Chair. Just to let members know, we have, just before the committee meeting, received a petition against these applications. There are issues raised there, matters raised there, that we feel we need to consider further. So I'm proposing that this application, or that the report is deferred to the next committee meeting of January, so that we can take those matters into account. But secondly, item 6, which refers to Panterios, is a very similar issue. And because of that, I'm also proposing that we defer that one and bring them both back to the next meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Ashley.
I'd like to move that we accept that suggestion, please.
Thank you, Councillor Ashley, but I don't think we've got a choice, really. If we're being advised by the Head of Development Management that these need to be deferred to allow him time to consider, then I think we simply ought to accept that without debating the issue. So are we all happy to accept that? Good. Fine. So the next meeting, 17th of January, I think, and hopefully the item will be on that agenda, and obviously we'll let you know whether or not that is the case. Thanks very much. So we jump to item 7, which is the removal of the first schedule, provision of affordable homes, and vary second schedule, financial contributions of management arrangements at the new road from Bartek Road, Burnhaven Pontypool development. And Rebecca is going to change her name,
for Christmas.
and just briefly introduce this.
Thank you, Chair. Just members will recall that we reported this application to the last committee, and members resolved to amend the original Section 106 agreement for the development on the basis of the removal of the affordable housing requirement and varying the time of the financial contribution towards leisure and recreation facilities and the cycle link. So that contribution would now be paid on the occupation of the 75th dwelling. Following committee, it's discovered that there were some discrepancies in the process for determining the application, and therefore the application is being reported back to committee. Examples of this where we just needed to put a site notice upon the site, and the applicants needed to update their application form. So that's all been done now, and we're just asking members to confirm their previous resolution to agree a variation to the Section 106 for those requirements to be amended. Thank you.
Okay. Any comments or questions? You happy with the recommendation? All those in favour, please show. Carried, thank you. Next one is item 8, which is the... Well, there's a number of applications which are going to come fairly thick and fast now. So this is one of them in respect of a condition at Llantarnam Comprehensive School. Norman's standing there showing the maps and plans. So
we're going to present this, Chair.
yes, Richard is going to just explain.
You'll note, and I apologise for this, there are a large number of applications on this committee. They're all, apart from the very last one, they're all very minor, and they relate to discharges of conditions and non-material amendments. Normally, we deal with all of these under delegated powers. It's very rarely that they come to committee. The only reason they're all on committee at the moment is because they are derived from the department that I'm in. So it's the neighbourhoods and planning department that are the applicants for these, and therefore the Constitution requires them to come to committee. We are going to be looking at the Constitution going forward, but just at the moment there's been quite a lot of applications for schools, etc. And as I say, that's the reason that they're on here, for no other reason. Thank you, Chair.
So, any questions in relation to item 9? Sorry? Oh, 8 and 9. I told you we were moving rapidly. 8 first then, okay. Any questions on 8? Because, of course, you've all read these thoroughly before the meeting. Councillor Seaborn.
Well, Chair, on page 58, the recommendation is approve unconditionally. Can I move that recommendation?
Yeah, assuming that there's no questions or comments. Now's your chance. Okay. That's been moved and seconded by Councillor Wade. Ready to vote? All those in favour, please show. Unanimous. Number 9. Another discharge of conditions at Llantarnam. Any questions or comments? Councillor Seaborn.
If there are no questions or comments from members, Chair, I would like to move the recommendation to approve unconditionally.
Ditto. All ready to vote? That's it. Show your hands then. That was unanimous as well. Item 10 then is a condition in relation to... Whoops. I just lost my agenda. To Blenheim Road Primary School. Page 65. Any comments or questions? No? Somebody else then, rather than Councillor Seaborn? Yeah. Fine.
Seconded.
And Councillor Cameron seconding this one. So, ready to vote? All those in favour, please show. Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Next one is item 11. Scrolling down slowly, which is another one in relation to Blenheim Road Primary School. Any questions or comments? Councillor Constance is moving it, seconded by Councillor Waite. Anybody want to talk about it? All those in favour then please show. It's unanimous. And the next one, item 12, is the removal of 2 limbs extending towards the roof of 41, somewhere or another, Oaklands, Pontier, Cwmbran. Any questions or comments? You're happy with it? Councillor Parish?
Approve with the conditions.
Moved. Is that seconded? Councillor Taylor seconded. Anybody want to ask any questions or comments? Sure. Last chance. Okay, all those in favour please show. That's unanimous. And the next one is item 13, discharge of conditions in relation to cycle parking. Oh, Councillor Ashley will be interested in this one in particular. Garnteg Primary School. Any questions or comments?
All I will say is I'm glad to see we've got it.
How very constructive of you, Councillor.
I will also move it as well, if I may.
Councillor Ashley moves it. Is that seconded? Everybody happy? All those show, please. Thank you. That's unanimous. The next one is 14, discharge of condition, also Garnteg, in relation to landscaping. Questions or comments, please? Councillor Tomlinson has moved it. Is that seconded? Councillor Constance. Ready to vote? All those in favour, please show. That too is unanimous. And the next one is 15. Discharge of condition in regard to drainage at Garnteg Primary School. Any questions or comments? Oh, yes. Give them a chance. No, wait, thanks. No questions or comments? Okay, it's been moved surely by Councillor Tomlinson, but never mind.
Seconded.
Councillor Ashley has seconded it. You ready to vote? Well done. Stick your hands up then. Thank you. That's moved. I mean, that's unanimous. And the next one is item 16, another discharge of condition at Garnteg Primary School, this time in relation to the Construction Environmental Management Plan, or CEMP for short. Any questions or comments? No. Anybody prepared to move something? Councillor Seaborn, well done. Back to you. Let's move.
Yes, Chair. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation, approve unconditionally. And could I ask, please, is our secretary keeping up with all the work? Because we're going rather fast.
It's tough. It's tough. But I believe so. I think very efficient. She's just got to put a tick against the number, basically.
Mr. Chairman, we've got to think of the officers.
Yeah, absolutely.
In these conditions.
Anyway, that'll do. Thank you very much. Right, that's carried unanimously. Item 17, which is yet another discharge of condition for surfacing materials, blah, blah, at Garnteg Primary School. Any questions or comments? No. Councillor Seaborn and Councillor Tomlinson have moved and seconded.
Move the officer's recommendations, Chair. Approve unconditionally.
Are you ready to vote? All those in favour, please show. That's unanimous. Item 18. Now, we'll pause at item 18 because this is a report which has come to the committee on the grounds that it is an application from one of our colleagues, well, the leader currently. So it's a non-material amendment to change the design of the garage doors and stuff like that. I'm recommending to you that we simply refer this back to the officers for determination without comment. You happy with that? Reason being, I don't think we should interfere or make any comment which might suggest that we're in favour or opposed, but leave it to the officers' discretion in their professional manner. So that's it's Councillor Seaborn, I believe, is moving that.
Oh no, Mr. Chairman, I'm just making comment.
Oh, comment.
Yes, but there's been no change to the address, which is the Rowans Craig Road, which should be Graig Road.
Oh, spelling
yes.
mistake.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Well spotted. So all references to Craig Road should be Graig Road. Good. Okay. With that amendment, does anybody wish to debate the suggestion that we refer it back to the officers for determination? Yes. All those in favour? Councillor Parish has asked, why are we doing it? We're referring it back to the officers for determination so we don't say yes or no or make any comment about a colleague's planning application. We can do that, can't we, Tim?
Well, I believe the committee can choose to do that, but it's not the normal practice, Chair, but I must say. I mean, when these applications have been before committee in the past, the committee has determined them, so I don't know why the departure really wasn't something I was aware was going to be suggested. But
right.
In the past, we've had applications from members, and the committee have determined them, Chair.
Yeah, we've never referred them back.
I don't believe so, Chair. I don't know if the planners recall differently. I don't recall it.
I thought we had, but I may be wrong. Maybe I was dreaming.
Well, there we are, Chair. It's certainly been done once in Richard's recollection. So
I thought we did in respect of the leader because he is the leader, and therefore.
I think.
Okay.
I think it's a matter for the committee, whichever they feel most comfortable with, really, Chair. It's clear to me that in the past these applications have been dealt with by committee, but it's also clear from what I'm told that there's been at least one occasion where committees felt happier referring back to the officers. So, it's. I've no strong views one way or the other, really. We've set the precedent on both directions, it seems.
Okay. Councillor Taylor.
Chair, all I am concerned is, are we setting a precedent by what we made earlier? I think perhaps we should determine it here, not stand it back, because there could be a precedent set there.
Well, yeah, but a precedent is a decision which then becomes binding or highly influential on other decisions you might have to be asked to take in future. And I think if there's been more than one different response to applications from members in terms of how it's dealt with, then you can only have one precedent, and we've already got two, if you see what I mean. So I don't think that's a worry. But I'm quite happy if you feel that you're happy to make a decision in respect of this application. Then up to you.
Chair, can I say to save officer time, and I don't know how much time is involved in that process, I would suggest that we determine it this afternoon.
Well, I'm in your hands, so if somebody moves appropriately, then we
can I move that then, Chair, please?
Councillor Evans has moved the recommendation, which is to approve, and Councillor Parish has seconded it. All those in favour, please show. That's unanimous as well. Then item 19, which is a discharge of condition for Lantana Comprehensive School. Anybody wish to comment or ask a question? Anybody ready to move something? Councillor Seaborn?
Move the officer's recommendation, approve unconditionally, Chair.
That's moved and seconded. Councillor Seaborn and Councillor Parish. Ready to vote? All those in favour, please show. It's not quite unanimous because Councillor Evans wasn't looking. He's nodding now, so that's okay. That's unanimous. Thank you. And then item 20. Which is a non-material amendment to the landscape scheme for Lantana Comprehensive School. Anybody got any questions or comments? Sure? Ready to? Councillor Seaborn is sort of raising his hand. Councillor Constance has beaten him to it. Is that seconded? Are you ready to vote? Or please show. That's unanimous. Then #21, I'll just remind you of my declaration of interest in respect of 21, which is Lantana Community Primary School. Various things there. Anybody wish to comment or ask a question in relation to this one? Okay, anybody ready to move anything? Councillor Parish?
I'll move it, the officer's recommendation with conditions.
Okay. Is that seconded? Councillor Cameron? Thank you. So, ready to vote? All those in favour, please show. Unanimous. Thank you. And when I can find it, 22. The vacant land off Pannywine, and Claire Hall is available to present that, briefly at least.
Thank you, Chair.
Norman will show the pictures.
Thank you, Chair. Just a few updates to the report for members as well. You'll see on some of the pages that comments were awaited from consultees on the amended plans. I can just run through those quickly for you. The Council's tree officer has looked at the amended plans and is now satisfied with the revision, subject to protective fencing, etc., going up through construction, so we'd need to put some conditions on to safeguard the trees. There's a slight rerouting of the footpath link to avoid the root protection zones of one of the trees. Otherwise, he's happy. The housing officer is satisfied with the revised mix, subject to further discussions on the Section 106 as to the nature and extent of the affordable housing contribution on this site. The forward planning policy officer has recalculated the education provision based on the capacity at George Street Primary. So there's a slight alteration to their comments on page 125 to say that there's a 7 pupil over capacity rather than 6. So again, that will be discussed with the developers as part of the Section 106 negotiations. Paul Wheeldon has looked at it from a highways point of view and is happy, subject to a number of conditions which will have to be put on with regards to parking provision, adoptable standard construction, gradients, standard highway things, nothing untoward. And again, there's some extra conditions that would need to be put on, but the recommendation seeks delegated powers to agree the precise wording of those, and they're to cover such things as the gradients of the gardens, because that affects the retaining wall heights, surfacing materials, because there is an issue with the drainage. Strategy would have to be conditioned to make the drainage officer satisfied, means of enclosure, that sort of thing, all of which we're seeking delegated power to approve the wording of that, because they would be discussed with the developer as part of the 106 agreement negotiations.
Okay, anybody? Councillor Jeremiah, local member.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry to slow it down, but
I welcome any application that comes up to that part of the land because it's been going on a very, very long time. But I give some concerns about the highways and the houses. We had a planning application about 4 years ago where we had 29 houses. 9 were built, they went bankrupt, and then the others weren't. This planning application started off at 50 houses. I know that it's down to 41 now, but I'm still very, very concerned about the highways part of it. We've only got one entrance to our site, which is opposite Avalon Court. I understand that they're looking at a road up at Bushy Park. I'm afraid that Bushy Park Road is double parked 24/7 all the time. There's no way that you're going to get any more vehicles up through there. And I'm very concerned that I would like, as a ward member, I would like to look at a couple more less houses. And also, I wondered if it would be possible to have a site meeting up there, please.
Claire, any?
Thank you, Chair. I'm sure Mr Whelan can come back on the traffic situation, but there is no proposal here to come through Bushy Park. The access is via the existing access off Penrhyn Lane to service these houses. The fact that the number has increased over and above the previous approval is not a problem per se. The developer has shown how the extra units can be accommodated on site and still satisfy our requirements in terms of open space, local area of play, adoptable standard highways, and satisfactory amenity parking, and bin storage, all the usual things. So the fact that the numbers have increased per se is not something that we have a problem with, bearing in mind our current housing land supply is below 5 years, and we should be looking to maximise the number of units we get on areas within the urban boundary to help protect our sites that are outside the urban boundary from the threat of development that might otherwise come forward. I don't know if Paul wants to come in specifically on the highway side.
Please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Claire. Councillor Jeremiah. The existing consent on this particular site was for 29 houses. The previous consent for this development site, and this is an additional 12 houses. I can understand what you're saying, but what we've got to consider is, can this general area as a whole cope with an additional 12 houses? That is the tranche in general, and all the different access points into the tranche. Our view, obviously, as a highways authority, is that the roads, although we recognise, as in most valley areas, roads can be difficult. We could generally got to look at the accident record in a particular area to see how poor that accident record is, and then we try and assess whether the road infrastructure within the area can cope with the additional number of houses for this development. Unfortunately, we find it really difficult to show that additional houses over and above what already has a consent will make it so bad in that particular area. Notwithstanding that, I understand what you say, and we are looking at along the frontage of the site there, and within the Section 106 agreement, there is something which says that we look at traffic calming along the front of the area, front of the site there, to try and reduce speeds, and to on the other side of the access point to where Norman is pointing now, is to try and provide an additional footway area which will make it better for pedestrians in that particular area. So in pure traffic terms, it's awful difficult for us as a highway authority to advise members that we would object to something on the basis of additional traffic. Notwithstanding, I hear what you're saying.
Jeremiah, why you're asking for a site visit now and not at the time that you were notified of the application?
Well, I'm asked for a site meeting because I've had complaints from a resident. So a resident came down to one of the officers, had a look at the plans, and there was a discussion with them about Bushy Park, about the road up at Bushy Park. And I still can't see, Chair, that the road that we got there is going to road and be coming down onto the main road, which is a very, very busy road. I can't see how that is enough access to it.
Norman, with the plan that you just had up, can we see, how do you get to 41 houses? Because I was trying to count them up, and or 41 dwellings.
Yeah. You have a look at it.
I just want this question answered first. So, thanks.
They're not all houses, Councillor. Some of these ones in yellow are actually flats. So the number of units is 41.
Oh, right.
Even though the block layout maybe suggests a lesser number, there's multiple stories here to get extra flat units on. So that's where the increased density is, primarily, in this block here. This is Bushy Park. And as you can see, there is no roadway through. There is a pedestrian link, but again, we felt that was important because we're introducing a local area of play here, and we wouldn't necessarily want residents to have to walk all the way around. And there's a pedestrian, there's a public right-of-way path already along here, and we really are trying to integrate the local area of play with the existing community as much as the proposed new development. So that's why this footpath link through, if you like, is to try and get that access to existing residents as well as future occupiers of the new development.
Thank you. Councillor Cameron.
Not exactly to do with the highways, but I am concerned that on the highways section, we've actually said there's insufficient visitor parking. And in view of the historic way that we're having problems with parking throughout the borough, I don't think I'm really happy that we start out with insufficient parking places.
Yep, please.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Cameron. The reference that I made in the report was to a previous plan where there was quite a shortfall in parking provision. The amended plan showed additional parking provision, but not to mislead you, there is still a small shortfall of visitor spaces. I think it's approximately about, if you took on-street parking, there's probably about 4 spaces short. Well, again, in the overall grand scheme of things, there is quite a lot of, as you can see on the plan, parking areas. There is a very, very slight shortfall, but that wouldn't lead me to object to this on that basis. Thank you.
Councillor Parish.
Thank you, Chairman. The drainage officer's comments. He says, not happy with the strategy, as it states that surface water system will only be designed for the 1 in 30-year return period. Current policy indicates that this should be designed the 1 in 100 plus 30% CC return period storm. I know it says on page 29 that there will be a condition, but will the condition be adequate to cover these conditions?
Yeah, Councillor. Yeah, we will ensure that the designers put forward will ensure that we can comply with the conditions. Thank you.
Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Chair. And this is on drainage as well. You mentioned, Claire, about the flood consequences assessment, and that would be taken under delegated powers for the conditions going forward. Will we have view of those conditions once they've been decided by a delegated decision?
There is already a flood consequences assessment submitted with this application, which our drainage officer has looked at. The difficulty on this site is the topography, and I think there's the strategy that they've come up with in broad terms, our drainage officer is not satisfied with and has asked them to redesign their strategy. There's a balance to be had here because the developer doesn't want to go to the detailed expense of drawing up the nitty-gritty on the drainage, all I's dotted and T's crossed, without the confidence of a resolution to grant planning permission. And the previous scheme, which obviously remains extant, had a similar condition imposed on it. I think the proposed condition here is much more onerous because it is actually basically telling them to reconsider their strategy with regard to the use of permeable surfacing in particular. Again, that's not to say we endorse what they've submitted, but the flood consequence assessment that's been submitted allows us to be satisfied that that can be conditioned to satisfy the drainage officer's position on this.
Yeah, sorry, Claire, if I haven't made myself clear, but you said that you were going to decide those conditions under delegated powers?
There's a condition on the drainage already in the report. I don't intend to alter that one. The additional conditions are to do with things that were reported verbally regarding highways and surfacing materials, so that we can make sure that what happens doesn't undermine the drainage strategy, but actually, works with it.
Right. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Ashley, then Taylor. Oh, right. Councillor Taylor, then back to you.
Chair, I'd like to support Councillor Jeremiah in a site meeting for this area for members that don't know the area. I'd feel comfortable at the last planning application of 21 houses, but to increase that up around there, I wouldn't want to support that.
Chair, the reason why I've asked for a site meeting basically is that in the beginning there were 29 houses, 9 were built. It went up to 50, it had come down to 41. The reason why I've asked for a site meeting, I would like members to see this area as it is now at the moment, and to see if they feel that 41 houses can be put on there.
There are a number of questions which Claire has attempted to answer and Paul has attempted to answer, but clearly there's some measure of dissatisfaction. One of the problems might be, just exploring here, that you feel that you need to have more certainty that the conditions being suggested are going to be fulfilled. And that may be assisted by a site visit, or it may not, I'm not sure. But is there any reason why we can't have a site visit in order to enable members to see for themselves? Are we going to be able to see much other than a field?
To answer that question, I mean, the land is very steeply sloping, which members won't get an appreciation of in a two-dimensional presentation. That said, it is an overgrown piece of land with lots of trees and scrub, and it's very sloping. If members need to see that to have an understanding of the conditions, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, the topography is a significant issue here in terms of both the drainage and the amount of retaining works that would have to be undertaken. But what I would say is because of the topography, these retaining works are very costly, which in itself has contributed to the increased number of units in order to deliver a viable scheme. So that they are very much related in that regard.
Councillor Gemma?
Chair, can I make a proposal then that we defer this application in favour of a site meeting first?
Well, it's been moved. It has been seconded, but yeah, we're still in debate mode. So, Councillor Cameron.
Thank you. Well, what I wanted to say is, I think the officers have been very explanatory with their replies. I mean, there were some things that I wasn't happy about, but they've been asked and they've been answered. I don't really see that us looking at the site physically will contribute anything. I think we've still got to be guided by what the officers tell us that they've investigated.
Well, that's a point of view. Anyone else wish to comment before we deal with the amendment, really, from Councillor Jeremiah? Councillor Davis.
Just for clarity, I noticed that which you put forward, Chair, is that the increased number of dwellings as such is 41. Is the concern the fact that there is 12 extra properties, which means 12 extra families, or is it the 12 extra properties per se that is the concern, or is it the 12 extra families and so forth that will come with that? I think that's the thing which I'd just like to clarify from maybe from Councillor Jeremiah, if he could just clarify what he's asking on whether it's the 12 extra dwellings themselves or the 12 extra family people that will come with the 12 extra dwellings.
Really what you're asking, Councillor Jeremiah, which is perhaps a little bit unfair, what would it take for you to be happy with this application? But what Councillor Jeremiah is saying is that we really need to see the site in order to assess whether what he's suggesting is difficult to envisage without being there. So
I put my proposal forward, Chair, and I'm going to stick to it. Thank you.
I don't know whether we can get much more from officers. I mean, Paul has given his view, and there's slightly less parking availability than he would ideally like, but not enough in order to persuade him to suggest that the application should be turned down or amended. Claire has said in relation to the drainage and other issues that conditions are being introduced in order to try and address those. Presumably we could ask for, in any event, a further report in the event that none of those conditions, or any of those conditions, aren't being met satisfactorily from their perspective. Whether a site visit is going to help in the meantime, I don't know. But it's been moved and seconded as an amendment, then that's something we'll have to deal with. But Councillor Seaborn, you wanted to say something first, and then...
Thank you, Chair. Could I just ask Claire, you outlined the area in yellow as flats or
yes,
high-rise?
Yes.
How many beds are there in those flats?
They're a mix of 1 and 2 bedrooms.
1 and 2?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ask the officer, there's 9 already built.
Yes.
And residents in that. Is that included in the 41?
No. No, I want to clarify that so members are clear. There was a planning permission in place for 29 over the whole of the site. If I can go back to the site plan. So the site included what's currently red line, and it went slightly further south here. Okay, so these are the properties that were built. There are 9 built here already. So that 29 covered that whole site. This is 41 new ones on this northern section. Again, so to be clear, we're looking at an increase of 41 over above what's there, what's there at the moment. Yeah. So we're not looking at 12 more than the original permission. We're looking at 41 additional units on that site.
Okay, Councillor Cameron.
Sorry to keep coming back, but we are talking about affordable units here, and if we say, well, you can't put that many, they've said the actual cost of doing all the infrastructure in the site will probably say the developer will walk away from it.
I think you have to be mindful of the site history and why the previous scheme has not happened. It is very much to do with viability.
Okay, well, it's up to you, members. We've had a motion that we have a site visit and therefore defer the application, consideration of the application pending that. Unless anybody's got anything else to say which is important for that particular consideration, I propose to go to the vote on that. Councillor Evans.
Yes, Chair, it's in relation to Councillor Cameron's last comment, really. If we have a site meeting, we may have a better understanding and vote for it to go ahead. So I don't see that as a negative part, really. I think it can only help.
Okay, anybody else wish to comment before we vote on what Mike has suggested? Councillor Seaborn.
So what we are saying, Chair, that if we have a site meeting, then this application's got to come back to the committee. Again.
Yep. So, let's take a vote on the recommendation, or the motion from Councillor Jeremiah that we have a site visit and then reconsider the matter in light of that. So all those in favour of that we have a site visit before we've considered this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And all those against? That's 9-5 in favour of a site visit. So we will have a site visit. Hopefully we can get that site visit organised so that we can deal with this at the next meeting, which is on the 17th of January. Absolutely. We're not doing anything else important that day, are we? No. And we'll drag the officers out with us as well. No, we'll see how it goes on that. So that item is now deferred pending that site visit. I think that probably does it as far as the agenda is concerned. So it only remains for me to do. Did the mayor actually wish us a Merry Christmas and all that this morning? Did she? Oh. I didn't notice, but anyway, season's greetings, folks, and see you in the new year.